Welcome to Book Fuel English, where we turn stories, ideas, and strategies into the fuel you need to grow every day. This book and this audiobook is not about instant motivation or flashy techniques. It's about something far more powerful: consistency, the quiet, unstoppable force that shapes every life worth living. Here we're going to explore why the small actions you take daily matter more than rare bursts of energy, inspiration, or luck. I know what it feels like to try and fail, to set big goals, promise yourself you'll follow through, and then watch that motivation fade. You felt frustration, self-doubt, and the sting of inconsistency. You've seen life pass by while your plans sat unfinished. You are not alone, and this is exactly why you are here. Book Fuel English is built for learners, thinkers, and doers like you. People who want transformation that lasts, not quick fixes that vanish by tomorrow. In the next chapters, you will learn the art of showing up, the science of small wins, and the methods that turn tiny, daily habits into unstoppable momentum. You'll discover how to build identity through action, how to protect your focus, and how to scale your progress so that growth compounds over time. Every principle, every step, every strategy is designed to be practical, understandable, and actionable, perfect for busy lives, global learners, and anyone who wants to finally bridge the gap between ambition and achievement. This journey is not about doing more for the sake of doing more. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need motivation, who doesn't negotiate with circumstance, who acts because it is who they are. It's about turning small, repeatable actions into life-changing results. And as you listen and follow along with Book Fuel English, you'll feel the connection. This is guidance crafted for you, for your growth, and for your success. You are not reading theory, you are building your future. So take a deep breath, pause for a moment. Let yourself commit to this journey. Each page, each chapter, each small habit is an investment in the person you are becoming. By doing it small, by doing it daily, you are creating a force that will carry you farther than any motivation, mood, or fleeting inspiration ever could. Today is your reset. Today is the moment where consistency becomes your greatest ally. And this is just the beginning. Consistency is the quiet force behind every great life. You don't always notice it, but it shapes everything: your habits, your confidence, your destiny. You've been told success requires intensity, massive effort, dramatic leaps, but the truth you're finally ready to hear, is that greatness is built in small, repeated moments, in the seconds when no one is watching, in the choices that look insignificant, yet accumulate into something unshakable. Because your life right now is not the result of big decisions, it's the sum of tiny ones, the ones you rushed through, the ones you ignored, the ones you postponed because you were tired, overwhelmed, or waiting for motivation to magically appear. And you know the cost. You've felt the chaos of distraction pulling you in every direction. You've carried the weight of emotional burnout, the sting of self-disappointment, the frustration of starting strong and fading fast. You've broken promises to yourself more times than you want to admit. You've said tomorrow so often that the word has lost its meaning. And every time you chose comfort over commitment, a little part of you wondered if you were capable of more. A part of you whispered that you were built for discipline, built for growth, built for consistency. You just didn't know how to access that version of yourself. But today is different. Today is a reset point, not because the world changed, but because you are choosing to. You are drawing a line between who you were and who you are becoming. The old rhythm of inconsistency no longer belongs to you. The scattered, reactive, easily derailed version of yourself is being replaced by someone deliberate, steady, and grounded. Consistency is not motivation, it's identity. It's who you decide to be every single day. It's the person who shows up even when the excitement fades. The person who takes small steps when the world pressures you to chase big ones. The person who understands that mastery is built in repetition, not in rare explosions of effort. Small daily actions don't look heroic, but they change you at the level that matters. They harden your discipline. They sharpen your focus. They build a foundation strong enough to support the life you actually want. And the best part, you've already taken the first step. By listening, by choosing to confront the patterns you've avoided, by deciding that today will not be another day wasted. If you do it small and you do it daily, your entire life will transform. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily, silently, and permanently. The person you dream of becoming is not far away. They are built in these daily repetitions. They are built in the moments you choose consistency over chaos. Inconsistency is the quiet thief of your potential. It steals your momentum, your confidence, your belief in yourself. It convinces you that one missed day doesn't matter, that slipping once means starting over, that discipline is something only a few people possess. But you're done believing that lie. You're done shrinking your life to match your excuses. Because choosing consistency is choosing power. Power over distraction, over doubt, over the weaker version of you. When you show up daily, something shifts. Your standards rise. Your identity rises. Your life rises. This is where it begins. Understanding that the barrier was never your ability, but your inconsistency. And now, you're ready to break it open. Begin now. Today. Chapter 1. The Enemy Within. Inconsistency. Inconsistency is the enemy that lives closest to you. It hides in your routines, your excuses, and the silent moments when you choose comfort over commitment. You feel it every time you start strong and end weak. Every time you promise yourself change but drift back into the same patterns. This battle is not abstract. It is personal, intimate, and relentless. You want to become the disciplined, focused, aligned version of yourself, yet your daily habits tell a different story. That tension is the battlefield where your future is being decided. You know the scattered self well. It's the version of you that wakes up with good intentions, but gets pulled apart by noise, distraction, and emotional chaos. It is reactive, easily shaken, constantly negotiating with itself. This scattered self lives moment to moment, feeling driven one day and defeated the next. It chases motivation instead of building discipline. And every time it gives in, it chips away at your belief that you can ever truly change. Then there is the aligned self. The self you imagine when you think of your highest potential. The self who follows through. The self who shows up without waiting for inspiration. The self who makes decisions based on vision, not mood. This aligned version of you is not a fantasy. It is not some perfect, untouchable identity. It is the version you create when you act with consistency. It becomes real the moment your actions stop contradicting your intentions. But inconsistency stands in the doorway between those two selves. It is the friction that keeps you stuck. And the most painful part is this: inconsistency destroys trust. Trust in your own word, trust in your own strength, trust in your own future. Every time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," you teach yourself that your promises are negotiable. Every time you quit halfway, you tell yourself you are not dependable. This is emotional debt, the quiet exhaustion of constantly disappointing yourself. You have felt that debt. You have carried it. You know what it's like to look at your goals and feel the heavy question: can I actually do this? Not because you're incapable, but because your history of inconsistency has made you doubt your own strength. That doubt is not weakness. It is a signal that something inside you is ready to break the old pattern. A signal that you are tired of being split between the person you want to be and the habits that hold you back. Here's the raw truth. Inconsistency is not about laziness. It is about fragmentation. Your mind wants one thing, your body does another. Your environment pushes you elsewhere. You are pulled in too many directions, and so you retreat into comfort because it feels easier in the moment. But comfort has a cost, and you've paid it long enough. The turning point begins when you see inconsistency not as a character flaw, but as an opponent, something you can confront, something you can defeat. You are not doomed to repeat the same cycle forever. You are not trapped in the identity of someone who can't follow through. You simply haven't built the structure, the clarity, and the emotional grounding required to sustain consistency. Yet, pain can become power when you stop running from it. When you look at your inconsistency and say, "I see you, and I am done letting you run my life." That moment, this moment, is your shift, the beginning of self-respect, the beginning of alignment, the beginning of becoming someone you trust again. Because imagine this: a life where your promises to yourself are sacred, a life where your actions match your intentions, a life where small daily habits build into something unshakable. That life is not built on intensity, it is built on consistency, and it begins with one small commitment, repeated again and again, until it becomes who you are. You break the cycle not through force, but through daily alignment, through showing up even when you feel scattered, through choosing one small action and honoring it, through building trust with yourself the same way you build trust with anyone else, with repeated proof. Every day you show up is a deposit into your future. Every day you keep your word is a message to your mind. I can rely on myself. Because before you take that step, you must recognize how deeply inconsistency has shaped your story. Think back to the moments you wanted growth but drowned in distraction, to the goals you loved but abandoned, to the mornings you swore you'd change and the nights you quietly admitted defeat. These memories are not here to shame you. They are here to free you, because once you acknowledge them, they lose their power. They stop defining you and start reminding you of what you refuse to repeat. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about understanding that every repeated action, good or bad, sculpts you. Your scattered habits have sculpted a scattered life, but aligned actions can sculpt an aligned life. You have the tools, you have the awareness, You have the desire. What you need now is the courage to commit to small steps without demanding immediate results. And that is where every transformation begins. Not with a massive leap, but with a single grounded decision. One decision to show up today. One decision to not negotiate with your excuses. One decision to no longer abandon the future you want because the present feels uncomfortable. That one decision, repeated daily, becomes identity. So take a breath. Stand inside this moment. Let the noise fade. Let the doubt soften. You are capable of more than the version of you that inconsistency has allowed you to be. And in the next chapter, you will learn how to build the trust you have long been missing. The trust that grows only through one thing: small, daily action. Because when you trust yourself, everything changes. Your goals stop feeling distant. Your habits stop feeling forced. Your effort stops feeling fragile. Self-trust turns discipline into something natural, something grounded, something you do because it reflects who you are. And that is the life you are stepping into now. A life rebuilt through small actions performed with unwavering consistency. This is where your rise begins. Chapter 2. The Identity Shift, Becoming the Person Who Shows Up. Identity is the silent engine behind every choice you make. Before a habit forms, before an action repeats, before discipline becomes natural, it begins with who you believe you are. You don't act consistently because you force yourself to. You act consistently because it aligns with your identity. When you understand this, everything changes. Transformation stops being a battle of willpower and becomes a shift in who you choose to become. The life you want doesn't start with trying harder. It starts with becoming the person who shows up. Because right now you live between two identities. One is fragile, one is powerful. The fragile identity is built from past failures, broken routines, emotional reactions, and the fear that you might never get it right. This identity whispers, "I hope I can change." It relies on motivation, which rises and falls like the weather. It acts based on moods, not goals. It hesitates, doubts, negotiates, and retreats. And the more it retreats, the more believable it becomes. The fragile identity always looks at discipline as something other people have. The empowered identity, however, is different. It is rooted, grounded, committed. It does not ask for permission or wait for motivation to feel perfect. It says, "I decide." And that decision becomes a personal law. This identity understands that consistency is not something you stumble into. It is something you embody. When you adopt the identity of the person who shows up, your habits stop feeling forced. They feel natural because they fit the story you believe about yourself. And when your story changes, your actions change. Identity is not created through thoughts alone. It is carved through repetition. Each small action you take becomes a vote for the identity you want to build. Every time you follow through on a tiny commitment, you reinforce the belief, "I am someone who does what I say." Every time you honor a micro habit, you strengthen the foundation of your future self. Small does not mean insignificant. Small is the gateway to becoming powerful. Small is the doorway to identity. But you may have spent years speaking to yourself from a weak identity. You may have said things like, "I'm just not disciplined," or "I always fall off," or "I can't stick to anything." These statements are not facts. They are stories. Stories shaped by inconsistency, by temporary choices, by environments that worked against you. And the moment you recognize them as stories, you regain control. Because stories can be rewritten, identity can be rebuilt. You can choose a new narrative right now. The shift begins with one thought. I am becoming the person who shows up, not the person who tries, not the person who hopes, the person who shows up. That single shift carries enormous weight. When you say, I hope, your power leaks away. You hand your future to chance. But when you say, I decide, the power returns to you. Decision is the birthplace of identity. Decision is the beginning of consistency. Decision is the moment you step out of the fragile self and into the grounded one. You are going to feel resistance when this transformation starts. Your old identity will try to pull you back with familiar thoughts, familiar excuses, familiar patterns. It will remind you of your past. It will replay your failures. Not because you are weak, but because the brain prefers familiar patterns. But you are not living for the familiar. You are living for the aligned. And alignment requires choosing who you are becoming over who you've been. The empowered identity is built when you act according to vision, not memory. This is why micro habits matter. Micro habits are not about achieving goals quickly. They are about proving identity consistently. When you complete a tiny habit, one push-up, one page, 1 minute of stillness, you are not proving discipline to the world. You are proving it to yourself. You are saying, I show up even in small ways. And that proof is everything. It strengthens your confidence. It rewires your expectations. It lifts you out of the fragile identity. It gives you a sense of control over your life. Micro habits are small, but the identity they create is unbreakable. And once identity becomes aligned with action, inconsistency loses its power. You begin to act from who you believe you are rather than what you feel like doing. You move differently. You think differently. You carry yourself differently. You stop negotiating with your excuses because they no longer fit your identity. You begin to trust yourself again. That trust becomes the foundation of discipline. Discipline becomes the foundation of mastery, and mastery becomes the foundation of the life you want to build. So understand this clearly. You are not fighting for a habit. You are fighting for an identity. You are not trying to complete tasks. You are trying to become someone new. And becoming someone new requires commitment to the smallest, simplest actions that reflect the future you want. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect. Today, because identity is built in real time, not imagined time. Every moment is a chance to shift who you are becoming. Imagine a life where you no longer question your ability to stay consistent. Imagine a life where showing up is automatic, natural, almost effortless, not because the tasks are easy, but because your identity is aligned with them. Imagine trusting yourself fully. Imagine waking up and knowing, without hesitation, that you follow through. That version of you is not distant. It is one decision and many small actions away. And that brings you to the next chapter, the moment where identity turns into momentum. Because identity only becomes real when it is backed by action. Not big action, not perfect action, small, repeatable action. The kind that proves who you are becoming. The kind that builds the consistency you've been chasing. The kind that transforms potential into power. Now it's time to learn the rule that makes all of this possible. The Rule of Small Wins. Chapter 3. The 1% Rule. The Science of Small Wins. Most people spend their lives chasing big changes, big goals, big breakthroughs, big turning points. But the truth is simple, quiet, and often ignored. Big change isn't created by big actions. It comes from small actions repeated over and over again. The world loves dramatic stories, but real transformation happens slowly, steadily, invisibly. This is the heart of the 1% rule. The idea that improving by just one tiny percent a day does more for your life than any burst of sudden intensity ever could. 1% is small, humble, almost laughably tiny, but it is powerful because it compounds. It stacks. It grows quietly until the results are impossible to ignore. Most people fail because they believe change must be dramatic. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect burst of motivation. They wait for clarity, for confidence, for the stars to align. They dream of the leap, the overnight success, the sudden breakthrough, the instant transformation. But the leap rarely comes, not because they aren't capable, but because they're trying to build a skyscraper without laying any bricks. Life doesn't transform through explosions. It transforms through accumulation, through repetition, through small, steady steps that seem insignificant in the moment, but create something massive over time. Consistency beats intensity every single time. The person who shows up for 5 minutes a day will always outrun the person who shows up for an hour once a week. The effort is not the magic. The repetition is. The reason 1% works so well is because it speaks directly to how the brain is wired. Your brain does not like dramatic change. Big sudden shifts trigger resistance, stress, and overwhelm. When you attempt to go from zero discipline to a perfect lifestyle overnight, your brain panics. It views the change as a threat, and eventually it pushes back. But tiny changes, small, manageable, almost effortless actions, slip under the brain's defenses. They don't trigger fear. They don't trigger resistance. They simply integrate. This is why small wins create massive transformation. They bypass the survival system and speak directly to the part of the brain that loves routine, predictability, and simplicity. Tiny actions become normal. Normal becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Every time you complete a small action, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine, the chemical of motivation and momentum. Most people believe they need more discipline, but what they actually need is more dopamine generated from achievable wins. Finishing one page, doing one push-up, cleaning one small corner of a room. These micro victories create satisfaction. They create energy. They create a feeling of I did it. And when you feel that small burst of reward, you want to do it again. Momentum isn't created through force. Momentum is created through dopamine. This microscopic sense of progress pulls you forward far more powerfully than willpower ever can. Every repeated action also forms a neural pathway in the brain. Think of it like walking through a field of tall grass. The first time you walk across it, you barely make a dent. But if you walk the same path again and again, the grass bends, then flattens, then forms a clear trail. At that point, the path becomes the easiest route to take. Habits work the same way. Each repetition strengthens the pathway, making the behavior easier and more automatic. This is why daily effort matters far more than dramatic effort. You're not trying to perform perfectly. You're trying to engrave a path into your brain. And the only thing that strengthens that path is repetition. Not intensity, not motivation, repetition. Momentum is another hidden advantage of the 1% approach. Big efforts drain energy. Small efforts generate energy. When you complete a tiny habit, your brain registers it as a win. You feel capable. You feel competent. You feel in motion. The win may be small, but the psychological impact is not. It creates a self-image of someone who takes action, someone who follows through, someone who shows up. As these small wins stack, your confidence grows. You begin to trust yourself again. You begin to believe that change is not only possible, it's happening. This sense of progress is what makes you unstoppable. Momentum isn't about speed, it's about direction. 1% forward is still forward, and that is enough to change everything. People fail not because they're weak, but because they aim too big too fast. They go from not exercising to attempting a full workout routine. They go from not reading to trying to finish a book a week. They go from chaos to trying to execute a perfect morning routine. It feels inspiring for a few days, but then fatigue sets in. Resistance grows. The brain becomes overwhelmed, and eventually the effort collapses. Not because the person lacked ability, but because the habits were unrealistic. Here is the simple truth. If a habit feels overwhelming, it's too big. If it relies on motivation, it's too big. If it drains your emotional energy, it's too big. You don't need enormous habits. You need repeatable ones. Picture a person standing at the base of a mountain. The summit feels impossible. The climb seems too long, too steep, too exhausting. But then imagine someone telling them, don't look at the mountain. Look at your next step. Just one step, then another. Suddenly the impossible becomes doable. They climb not through strength, but through persistence. Not through speed, but through repetition. And eventually, step by step, they reach the summit. Not because they made a giant leap, but because they took hundreds of tiny ones. That is the essence of the 1% rule. You don't conquer the mountain. You conquer the next step. You don't need a big plan to transform your life. You just need a small beginning, a single page, a single push-up, a single minute of meditation, a single glass of water. The size doesn't matter. Completion matters. Completion builds confidence. Completion builds trust. Completion builds identity. You're teaching your brain that you are someone who starts and someone who finishes. This is the foundation of every transformation in the world. Small daily action repeated until it becomes who you are. As your tiny actions become consistent, something deep inside you starts to shift. You stop identifying as someone who tries and start identifying as someone who shows up, someone who commits, someone who follows through, someone who honors their word, even when the action is small. This is where the 1% rule becomes life-changing. You're not just doing small habits. You're becoming the kind of person who behaves differently, the kind of person who builds momentum, the kind of person who keeps moving forward even on low-energy days because the habit is too small to fail and too meaningful to ignore. The magic of the 1% rule is that the small things eventually become the big things. Over time, the tiny efforts compound into visible results. The small shifts create major changes. The invisible actions create visible transformation. Tiny becomes powerful. Repetition becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. This is not motivational theory. It's psychological reality. It's behavioral science. It's the mathematics of self-growth. You don't need to transform your life in a week. You just need to get 1% better today. And now that you understand why small works, it's time to learn how to build the habits that change everything. Chapter 4 will give you the blueprint, the triggers, structures, and environment that make tiny habits effortless and automatic. Let's go there now. Chapter 4, Build the Habit Engine, Systems over Willpower. You've been taught to chase motivation your entire life. Wait for inspiration. Wait for a surge of energy. Wait for the perfect mood. But motivation is a spark, not a strategy. It burns bright for a moment, then disappears. And if your life is built on sparks, you will always live in cycles. On fire one week, burn out the next. This chapter is your awakening to a deeper truth. Willpower is unreliable, but systems are unstoppable. Systems don't care how you feel. Systems don't rise and fall with emotion. Systems run whether you're excited, tired, stressed, or unmotivated. Systems make consistency automatic. And if consistency is the engine of transformation, systems are the blueprint that keep that engine running. Most people fail not because they lack discipline, but because they rely on discipline too much. They try to mentally power through every task, every decision, every habit, but willpower is a limited resource. It weakens throughout the day. Stress drains it, fatigue drains it, emotion drains it. When you rely on willpower alone, you're fighting a battle with no armor. But when you build systems, clear triggers, supportive environments, automatic routines, you remove the need for daily decision-making. You reduce friction. You eliminate negotiation. You cut out the drama. A well-designed system does the work for you. Let's start with the first pillar of any powerful habit system, triggers. A trigger is the cue that tells your brain, do the habit now. Without a trigger, habits float in the air as intentions. They stay vague, unanchored, easy to forget. But when you attach a habit to a specific cue, time, place, or event, it becomes grounded. It becomes predictable. It becomes easier. For example, instead of saying, I'll read today, you say, when I drink my morning coffee, I read one page. Instead of saying, I'll stretch sometime, you say, after I brush my teeth, I stretch for 1 minute. The habit is no longer a floating idea. It is anchored to something unavoidable. This creates reliability. This creates follow-through. The second pillar is environment design. Your environment is not neutral. It is shaping you every second. It can push you toward discipline or pull you toward distraction. Most people fail because their environment is designed for comfort, not growth. Their phone is within reach. Their workspace is cluttered. Their temptations are easy, and their progress requires effort. This is backwards. Systems flip the script. Systems make the good habits easy and the bad habits hard. A system-minded person removes friction from the habits they want to build. Putting workout clothes by the bed, preparing the book on the table, setting up the workspace the night before, and they add friction to habits they want to break. Moving apps off the home screen, storing junk food out of sight, placing barriers between themselves and their distractions. Discipline is not about being stronger than temptation. It's about designing a world where temptation has no power. The third pillar is reward loops. Every habit, even the smallest one, must feel satisfying. If it doesn't feel rewarding, the brain won't repeat it. But this reward doesn't have to be huge. In fact, small is better. A check mark on a habit tracker, a moment of self-acknowledgement, a simple breath, and a quiet, "I did it." This reinforces the behavior neurologically. It tells the brain, "Do this again." Most people skip this step. They finish a small win and think it's insignificant. But the brain doesn't care about significance. It cares about signals. It cares about reinforcement. This is why celebrating tiny wins matters. When your brain enjoys the loop becomes automatic. And once it's automatic, you don't need motivation anymore. Systems are powerful because they turn your life into a series of predictable patterns instead of emotional guesses. Think of two versions of you. One lives by emotion. This version wakes up and asks, "Do I feel like it?" Some days yes, some days no. Productivity becomes inconsistent. Progress becomes fragile. Confidence becomes unstable. Momentum rises and falls like a storm. But the other version of you, the system-built version, doesn't check their feelings. They follow the pattern. They follow the cues. They follow the steps. They act because the action is built into the structure of their life. This version of you grows slowly, steadily, predictably, and this version always wins. If your habits require you to feel motivated, they are designed to fail. If your systems make your habits nearly impossible to avoid, they are designed to last. The strongest achievers in the world are not the most motivated. They are the most structured. They reduce decisions. They reduce friction. They reduce uncertainty. They rely on systems that protect their goals from their moods. They design their days so that discipline becomes the natural path, not the forced one. To build your habit engine, you must start small, but you must also start smart. Begin with a single trigger-based habit, then shape your environment so that the habit is easy, then seal it with a reward loop. Repeat this structure for each new habit. Build slowly, build intentionally, build sustainably. The goal is not to build a perfect routine overnight. The goal is to create a system that makes consistency the default. Another crucial element is pre-deciding your actions. When decisions are made in advance, execution becomes simple. Pre-deciding removes the emotional negotiation that destroys momentum. For example, decide your wake-up time the night before. Decide your workout plan before you get to the gym. Decide your writing time before the day begins. Your brain loves clarity. It hates uncertainty. Systems give clarity. They eliminate the mental fog that often tricks you into procrastination. Think of your life as a machine. Every habit is a gear. Every trigger, environment choice, and reward loop is another gear. When the gears align, the machine runs smoothly. When one gear slips, the system wobbles. But if the machine is well designed, it corrects itself. This is why systems are more powerful than motivation. They create stability. They create predictability. They create flow. Creating a habit engine also requires removing decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is the silent killer of consistency. Every unnecessary choice drains the energy needed for your real goals. Systems eliminate this drain. Wear the same style of clothes. Eat similar meals. Block off specific hours. Automate bills. Automate reminders. Simplify your options. The fewer decisions you make, the more energy you have for what matters. Eventually, your systems become an extension of who you are. They turn into identity-based patterns. You become the kind of person who works out because it's simply part of your morning. You become the kind of person who reads because your book is always waiting at the same time, in the same place. You become the kind of person who works on their future daily because the system makes it natural. Systems are not restrictions. They are freedom. The freedom to stop depending on emotion, the freedom to stop breaking promises to yourself, the freedom to live intentionally instead of reactively. And now, as you begin building the structure that will support your future, you must confront the one force powerful enough to break any system you create: distraction. Chapter 5, Slaying. Distraction, protecting your daily discipline. Distraction is the enemy you never see coming. It creeps in silently, dressed as notifications, entertainment, social comparison, and even the comfort of busyness. Every day it steals seconds, minutes, hours, until your intentions vanish and your goals feel distant. Distraction does not announce itself. It smiles while your focus fractures. It convinces you that scrolling, checking, and responding are more important than building the life you've promised yourself. And if you allow it, distraction will dismantle your consistency, leaving you exhausted, unfulfilled, and trapped in cycles of false progress. To slay it, you must recognize it, name it, and fight it with deliberate ferocity. Your attention is the soil in which your habits grow. Neglect it and nothing thrives. Protect it and everything flourishes. Modern life was designed to scatter you. Every app, every notification, every ping is engineered to hijack your attention. Social media feeds endlessly. Messaging apps scream for a reply. And the world around you demands constant reaction. You live in a storm of stimuli, and most people are drowning without realizing it. They blame their lack of discipline, their willpower, their motivation. But the real problem is attention theft. The scattered mind is reactive. It jumps from one interruption to another. It lives in chaos. And chaos is the natural enemy of consistency. The focused mind, in contrast, is intentional, selective, and protected. It understands that attention is the currency of achievement. Every second it spends in alignment compounds. Every second wasted compounds regret. The difference between these two lives is profound. The scattered mind drifts. The focused mind builds. To protect your attention, you must first control your environment. The room you occupy, the devices you use, the sounds around you, all of it shapes your mental state. If you work in clutter, your brain mirrors the mess. If your phone is within reach, temptation whispers constantly. If notifications ping without pause, focus cannot survive. Environmental control is not a luxury, it is a weapon. Reduce visual noise. Remove objects that tempt procrastination. Silence unnecessary notifications. Use a dedicated workspace. Make the path of least resistance the path of progress. When the environment supports your goals, discipline becomes effortless, almost automatic. When it fights you, even small actions require heroic effort. Digital discipline is equally crucial. Your phone is not neutral. It is a designed distraction, a powerful force capable of undoing years of progress in minutes. You must master it, or it will master you. Set boundaries. Limit usage. Turn off alerts. Schedule blocks of time for deep work and shield them from interruptions. Consider attention fasting, periods when no device, no social media, no notifications invade your focus. The brain needs space to think, to plan, to consolidate learning. Constant input fragments your thoughts. Constant stimulation trains the mind to jump, never dwell, never focus. Attention fasting is not deprivation. It is preparation. It is armor for your mind. It is how you reclaim control over your inner world. Distraction is not only external, it lives within. Internal noise, stress, worry, indecision, in the compulsion to compare yourself with others is equally destructive. Every time you scroll mindlessly, check notifications, or react impulsively, your inner landscape becomes fragmented. You train your brain to seek the next small dopamine hit instead of building long-term satisfaction. You trade depth for immediacy, vision for novelty, progress for consumption. The scattered mind is addicted to stimulation. The focused mind is addicted to mastery. This contrast is not subtle. It defines your outcomes. One path leads to defeat, stagnation, and wasted potential. The other leads to clarity, progress, and unstoppable momentum. High contrast between distraction and focus is the lesson you must internalize. Focused people understand the power of single-minded effort. They know that greatness is not achieved by doing more things, but by doing fewer things better and consistently. They treat every moment as a chance to reinforce identity, habit, and purpose. Distraction, by contrast, is passive theft. It robs you of minutes, energy, confidence, and momentum. It accumulates silently until one day you realize you've been spinning in place. The difference is not in talent. The difference is not in luck. The difference is in attention, the ability to deliberately choose what you allow into your mind and what you reject. One tool to master focus is the deliberate creation of routines. Routines act as shields against chaos. When your day is structured, you reduce the number of decisions your brain must make, and every habitual action frees energy for deeper work. Morning routines, work sprints, evening reflection. These are not rituals for comfort. They are armor. They are the trenches that keep distraction at bay. Each habit you automate becomes a barrier to inconsistency. Each pattern you follow removes friction from progress. And the more friction you remove, the easier it becomes to sustain focus, to build consistency, and to grow without relying on fleeting motivation. Another essential strategy is priority protection. Focus requires deciding what matters most and defending it fiercely. Every task, meeting, and message should pass the test. Does this align with my highest objectives? If not, it is a distraction. You are not required to attend to everything. You are not required to respond immediately. You are not required to absorb every stimulus. Choose what deserves your attention and let the rest fall away. Consistency dies when the mind is divided. Momentum dies when the mind is scattered. Protecting priorities is not optional. It is mandatory for mastery. Distraction can also be used as a teacher. Notice when your mind wanders. Observe what tempts you away from focus. Track patterns of interruption and fatigue. Understanding how distraction works against you allows you to design better systems. Awareness alone does not solve the problem, but it is the first step toward reclaiming control. You can't fight what you don't see. Once you see it, you can anticipate it, neutralize it, and reduce its power. This is how you move from reaction to prevention. This is how the focused mind wins while the scattered mind loses. One of the most powerful tools against distraction is accountability. Share your goals, habits, and progress with someone who will hold you responsible. The human brain is wired for social proof and feedback. When you know that someone else will see whether you show up, your internal excuses carry less weight. Accountability is not about permission. It is about structure. It reinforces focus, creates external cues to support internal discipline, and strengthens habit formation. Every focused person you admire has built these invisible scaffolds around themselves. These supports turn intention into action and reduce the risk of distraction, hijacking progress. The stakes are high because a distracted life is a defeated life. Inconsistent attention erodes confidence. It breaks trust with yourself. It slows momentum. It turns every day into a struggle, every habit into a negotiation, and every goal into a wish. Consistency, the engine of transformation, cannot survive in a scattered mind. You can build brilliant habits, design effective systems, and commit to identity shifts, but without attention, all of it collapses. Protecting your focus is not an accessory to success. It is the foundation. Without it, nothing else matters. With it, everything becomes possible. And yet, slaying distraction is not about eliminating pleasure, ignoring connection, or living in deprivation. It is about sovereignty over your own mind. It is about choosing deliberately instead of reacting compulsively. It is about creating space to think, plan, and act with clarity. It is about mastering the invisible force that determines whether your small actions add up or dissolve into nothing. Every time you win this battle, you reinforce identity. Every time you protect focus, you strengthen momentum. Every time you remove noise, you give power to consistency. Once you have tamed distraction, once you have reclaimed your attention, the next challenge emerges. Because daily action is never always easy. Resistance, fatigue, setbacks, and emotional obstacles still appear. Life will test you. The habits you are building, the systems you have created, the identity you are cultivating, all of it will be challenged. That is why focus alone is not enough. Discipline alone is not enough. You must also develop resilience, the inner armor that allows you to persist when the battle feels long, when the world screams for your attention, when temptation beckons, and when motivation fades. Resilience is the bridge between consistency and mastery, and it is the next step in your transformation. Now that you have learned how to protect your daily discipline from the silent, ever-present enemy of distraction, it is time to prepare for the inevitable challenges ahead. Chapter 6 will teach you how to build resilience, the strength to persist, adapt, and grow, even when obstacles appear and habits feel heavy. Your attention is safe, your systems are active, and your focus is sharp. Next, you will learn how to fortify your mind so that the small daily actions you've committed to continue to compound into unstoppable progress, no matter what life throws at you. Chapter 6, Emotional Resistance, Showing Up on the Hard Days. Some days the world feels heavy. Your body is tired, your mind is foggy, your motivation is a whisper, and every small task feels like lifting a mountain. These are the hard days, the invisible battles where consistency is tested most. Most people quit here. They wait for energy to return, for inspiration to strike, for life to feel easier. But this is a trap. Waiting for the right mood is waiting for a lie. The truth is that emotional storms will always exist. Fatigue, doubt, stress, laziness, and emotional heaviness are part of the human condition. They are unavoidable. What separates those who achieve from those who stagnate is not how they feel, but what they do regardless of how they feel. Discipline is the decision to act even when the feeling isn't there. Discipline is showing up when the world inside you screams to stop. Discipline is proving to yourself again and again that you are stronger than emotion. Emotions are powerful, but they are not destiny. Most people are emotionally reactive. They chase moods, surrender to feelings, and allow emotional turbulence to dictate behavior. The reactive mind waits for permission from happiness, energy, or clarity. The responsible mind, in contrast, takes control. It recognizes that feelings are temporary signals, not instructions. Emotional responsibility is the ability to choose action despite how you feel. It is the bridge between intent and achievement. When you act in spite of discomfort, your confidence grows. When you honor your commitments during low-energy days, your identity strengthens. Emotional storms may arrive, but they do not control the person who has trained themselves to respond rather than react. Showing up on hard days requires micro-commitments. Large goals can feel impossible when your energy is low, but breaking them into tiny, non-negotiable actions removes overwhelm. One push-up, one paragraph, 1 minute of focus, one small step. These micro-commitments are the entry point into action. They anchor you, prevent inertia, and trigger momentum. Completing a small task signals to your brain that progress is possible, even under resistance. Momentum is contagious. Once you move in the smallest way, the next action becomes easier. Micro-commitments are the hidden superpower of high performers. They turn days that feel impossible into days that are still productive, still building, still aligned with your bigger identity. Emotional anchoring is another tool that transforms struggle into action. Anchors are routines, habits, or rituals that you attach to emotions, ensuring that even when feelings falter, your system carries you forward. For example, you might pair your morning coffee with a habit of journaling or a specific song with a 5-minute workout. These anchors bypass the emotional noise, making the habit automatic. Over time, you train your mind to rely on these anchors rather than waiting for emotional motivation. The brain learns that completion is not optional, that action happens whether the mood is right or wrong, and that the person you are is defined by what you do, not what you feel. Laziness and procrastination are emotional traps disguised as comfort. The temptation to avoid discomfort is strong because evolution wired humans to conserve energy. But the modern challenge is different from the primal one. You are not avoiding physical threats. You are avoiding growth. Every moment surrendered to ease chips away at identity. Every excuse builds resistance. Every delay strengthens the part of your brain that prefers comfort over progress. This is why anti-negotiable routines are essential. When a habit is non-negotiable, it becomes impervious to mood swings. You perform it because it is part of who you are. You do not debate it. You do not wait for permission. It happens automatically. Identity and action merge, leaving no space for weakness. Stress and self-doubt are emotional predators that prey on inconsistency. They whisper that you are not enough, that tomorrow will be easier, that you can skip today. These thoughts are natural, but they are not true. The responsible mind does not surrender to them. It observes them, acknowledges them, and acts anyway. Every time you act under stress or self-doubt, you train your nervous system to tolerate discomfort. You teach yourself that resistance is temporary, but the power you gain is permanent. Emotional resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a signal that you are in the arena, growing stronger with every choice to continue. Consistency is forged in struggle. It is tested when feelings are absent, energy is low, and life is heavy. Those who succeed are not always the most talented or the most motivated. They are the ones who have built the skill to act regardless of circumstance. This skill is learned through repetition of discipline during hardship, through the daily confrontation with resistance, through micro commitments that reinforce identity. The more you practice showing up in small ways during difficult days, the easier it becomes to show up in large ways when life demands more. Emotional storms do not define you. Your actions define you. One of the strongest strategies to maintain progress through emotional resistance is preparation. Anticipate low-energy days. Plan micro steps. Set anchors. Know which tasks can be accomplished even under fatigue. Reduce friction wherever possible. Remove excuses before they arise. Preparation turns chaos into predictability, giving you a roadmap to follow when your internal world is turbulent. You are not relying on luck, motivation, or fleeting energy. You are relying on structure, foresight, and deliberate action. This is how habits survive storms. This is how identity persists under pressure. Another layer of resilience is self-compassion combined with accountability. Recognize that some days will be harder than others, but avoid using struggle as an excuse to surrender. Treat yourself with understanding, but act with rigor. Even when you falter, return immediately to action. Each recovery strengthens identity and reinforces discipline. Pair this with accountability, sharing goals or tracking progress, so that your inner commitments gain external reinforcement. Systems and relationships can protect your consistency when emotions fluctuate, creating an environment where small wins accumulate into unstoppable momentum. Discipline on hard days also requires reframing your mindset. Pain, fatigue, and discomfort are not signals to stop. They are signs of growth. Emotional heaviness is proof that you are pushing boundaries, stretching capacity, and building resilience. The difference between reactive and responsible people is perception. The reactive mind sees difficulty as punishment. The responsible mind sees difficulty as opportunity. Every choice to act despite hardship is an investment in your future self. Every moment you overcome emotional resistance, you deepen trust with yourself, strengthen your identity, and reinforce the unshakable truth that you are someone who finishes what they start, no matter the feeling. Tracking progress is the final weapon against emotional sabotage. When you see cumulative wins, even micro wins, your confidence rises, motivation strengthens, and resistance diminishes. Progress makes struggle meaningful. It reminds you that your actions, however small, are not wasted. Tracking allows reflection, correction, and celebration. It transforms effort into visible growth, turning the invisible fight against emotional resistance into tangible proof of development. Without tracking, struggle can feel endless. With it, struggle becomes measurable, actionable, and empowering. This insight leads directly into the next step of mastery, using feedback, measurement, and reflection to make consistency unstoppable. Ultimately, showing up on the hard days is about merging identity with action. You are not relying on emotion, circumstance, or luck. You are relying on systems, anchors, micro commitments, and personal responsibility. You are training yourself to act as the person you want to become, regardless of temporary discomfort. This is how emotional resistance is conquered. This is how consistency is built. This is how mastery is earned, one hard day at a time. The storm will come, but it will not stop you. Fatigue, doubt, stress, and low mood are transient. Your discipline is permanent. Your identity, strengthened through repeated action, is unbreakable. The person who shows up on the hard days becomes the person who shows up for life. And now, as you prepare to cement your progress, the next chapter will reveal the power of measurement and reflection. Consistency becomes unstoppable when you learn to track progress, see results, and adjust intelligently. Chapter 7 will teach you how to use progress tracking to transform effort into visible, measurable growth, making every small action count toward mastery. Your emotional resilience is ready, your habits are forming, and the next step is to make your progress undeniable, tangible, and unstoppable. Chapter 7, The Momentum Loop, Tracking, Reflecting, Refining. Momentum is not magic. It is measurable. It is deliberate. It is earned by attention, reflection, and refinement. Most people work hard but blindly, putting in effort without ever knowing if it is building toward anything real. They rely on hope, intuition, or vague feelings of progress. But hope is fragile. Intuition is flawed. Blind effort is wasted energy. Tracking transforms effort into visible, undeniable growth. It turns action into proof. It turns small wins into reinforcement. When you track your habits, you no longer wonder if your daily work matters. You see it. You feel it. You believe it. And belief fuels action, creating a self-reinforcing loop that propels you forward faster than willpower ever could. Visual proof is a powerful motivator. A streak on a habit tracker, a chart of progress, a check mark for every completed task. These signals do more than confirm action. They communicate identity. They tell your brain, I am the kind of person who shows up. Every mark becomes a building block of self-trust. Every completed habit becomes evidence that you are capable, reliable, and consistent. The focused mind grows stronger when it can see results. The scattered mind doubts and drifts because there is no record of effort. Tracking converts invisible effort into tangible reality, giving momentum a physical form you can interact with, measure, and reinforce. Reflection is the second pillar of the momentum loop. Tracking without reflection is like running on a treadmill. You move, but you do not advance. Reflection turns raw data into insight. At the end of each day, week, or month, pause and consider. What worked? What didn't? Where did resistance arise? Where did I excel? Reflection allows you to learn without judgment, to adjust without abandoning effort, and to refine systems that support growth rather than dismantle it. The person who reflects is proactive. The person who ignores patterns is reactive. Reflection transforms routine into strategy. It transforms habit into mastery. When habits falter, most people quit. But quitting is not the solution. It is surrender. The alternative is adjustment. Systems fail, not people. When tracking reveals that a habit isn't working, don't abandon it. Refine it. Make it smaller, easier, more aligned with your triggers, environment, or reward loops. Experiment, test, iterate. Habits are not static. They are living processes. The momentum loop teaches you to respond intelligently rather than emotionally. You do not give up when resistance arises. You measure, you adjust, you continue. This is how small efforts compound into unstoppable growth. Contrast blind effort with measured progress. The person who works blindly is exhausted but unsure. The person who measures is energized and confident. The first drifts through tasks, hoping something sticks. The second knows exactly what is moving the needle. The first loses faith because results seem invisible. The second gains faith because every check, every streak, every reflection validates action. Momentum is not built by doing more. It is built by doing with awareness. Every tracked habit becomes a piece of evidence that you are on the right path. Every adjusted system becomes a lever that accelerates growth. Streaks are more than numbers. They are identity reinforcement. A single streak may feel trivial, but over time it accumulates into a living testament of reliability. One day you see a chain of weeks, then months, then years. And in that chain, you see yourself. You see the person who perseveres. You see the person who refuses to quit. You see a pattern of consistent, disciplined action that becomes irreversible. Momentum grows geometrically when you combine tracking with reflection. Every habit, even tiny, contributes to the narrative of progress. Every adjustment reinforces that narrative. Every win, visible and acknowledged, fuels the next effort. Refinement is the third essential step. Tracking reveals what works and what doesn't, but refinement allows you to act on that knowledge. Intensify habits that produce results, optimize systems that support them, reduce friction, clarify triggers, and enhance rewards. This iterative process ensures that your energy is invested in what moves the needle, not what merely consumes it. Blind effort ignores feedback. The refined approach embraces it. The disciplined mind converts trial and error into exponential growth. Momentum becomes unstoppable because it is not random. It is engineered, observed, and enhanced. Even failure becomes a resource when you track, reflect, and refine. A missed habit or broken streak is not a moral failing. It is data. Treat it as a signal, not a sentence. Ask yourself, why did I miss it? Was the trigger unclear? Was the habit too big? Was my environment sabotaging me? Each answer informs the next iteration. You do not quit, you improve. You keep the loop alive. In this way, tracking transforms mistakes into fuel rather than friction. The person who tracks learns faster, adapts more intelligently, and maintains momentum through adversity. The momentum loop also strengthens confidence. Visible progress validates effort. Reflection confirms strategy. Refinement increases efficiency. Together, they create a psychological ecosystem where your actions reinforce belief and belief reinforces action. You no longer doubt if your habits matter. You see them mattering. You experience the compounding effect firsthand. The more evidence you generate, the more unstoppable you become. Confidence is not a feeling, it is a record of action. Momentum is not abstract, it is tangible proof. And this proof is what propels you to the next level. Ultimately, the momentum loop converts intention into identity. Tracking shows that you are consistent. Reflection proves that you are intelligent and adaptable. Refinement demonstrates that you are capable of continuous improvement. Together, they transform small daily actions into an unstoppable force. You are no longer drifting blindly. You are directing your life with measurable impact. You are proving to yourself every day that consistency is real, achievable, and irreversible. Each small step, tracked and refined, accumulates into undeniable mastery. Once momentum is built, it becomes a force multiplier. The actions you perform, the habits you reinforce, and the systems you optimize now compound with intensity. Progress accelerates, confidence grows, identity solidifies. And with this foundation, the next chapter will teach you how to multiply momentum even further, using strategies that expand the power of daily action across every area of your life. You are ready to take small, measured wins and turn them into exponential growth, creating a life that reflects the person you are becoming. Chapter 8: Scaling Your Habits, From Tiny Steps to Big Wins. You've built the foundation. You've tracked progress, reflected, refined, and shown up on hard days. But growth is not static. The small wins you've earned are not the ceiling. They are the starting point. Scaling your habits is where transformation becomes visible, undeniable, and irreversible. This is where beginner discipline meets mastery. Beginner discipline is fragile. It requires conscious effort, reminders, and external reinforcement. Mastery discipline, in contrast, flows naturally. It is integrated into identity. The person who has scaled habits doesn't need to debate, negotiate, or rely on fleeting motivation. They act automatically, consistently, and with precision. Scaling is the bridge from doing small things occasionally to executing big things reliably. Stacking habits is the first secret to exponential growth. Small, isolated actions are powerful, but their impact multiplies when linked together. When you attach a new habit to an existing habit, you leverage momentum rather than starting from scratch. For example, after completing your morning journaling, you might add a 5-minute meditation. After your workout, you might add a habit of planning the day. These chains transform single actions into routines that compound without extra effort. Momentum flows seamlessly when habits are connected. One action fuels the next, creating a sequence of wins that builds identity and reinforces the narrative of progress. Stacking is how small wins evolve into unstoppable routines. Gradual difficulty is the second pillar of scaling. Habits that are too easy plateau. Habits that are too hard break consistency. The art of scaling lies in incremental challenge. Increase effort slowly but consistently. Add one push-up, one extra paragraph, one additional minute of focus. Tiny increases compound into significant gains over time. This method transforms persistence into mastery. The person who scales intelligently does not rush. They respect the process. They know that growth is a series of controlled, deliberate expansions, not reckless leaps. Every incremental improvement strengthens identity and reinforces the belief that progress is inevitable. Scaling habits also transforms perception. What once felt impossible, writing consistently, working out daily, learning a new skill, now becomes normal. You begin to see yourself differently. Your identity shifts from "I hope I can" to "I do." Small steps evolve into routines. Routines evolve into rituals. Rituals evolve into a way of life. This is where discipline becomes natural, where consistency is effortless, and where identity aligns fully with action. The beginner who struggles every day starts to disappear, replaced by someone stronger, more capable, and unstoppable. Scaling habits is not just improvement, it is metamorphosis. Contrast is crucial to recognize in this phase. The beginner negotiates, hesitates, and relies on motivation. The advanced practitioner moves deliberately, decisively, and reliably. The beginner's habits feel like chores. The advanced practitioner's habits feel like extensions of self. The beginner's wins are sporadic. The advanced practitioner's wins are predictable, consistent, and compounding. Scaling is not just about doing more. It is about becoming more. It is about aligning identity, action, and environment so that the smallest habits magnify into life-altering routines. Recognition of this contrast strengthens commitment, fueling the drive to evolve further. Evolving identity is the core of scaling. Habits are not just actions. They are declarations of who you are. When you maintain small wins, they shape identity. When you scale those wins, they expand identity. The person you were yesterday cannot perform at the level you are capable of today. Every added habit, every slight increase in difficulty, every stacked action reinforces a new self-concept, the consistent, capable, unstoppable self. Scaling is not external, it is internal. It changes the way you see yourself, the way you approach challenges, and the way the world perceives you. Identity becomes the driver, and actions naturally follow. Celebrating scaled wins is important, but it must be strategic. Acknowledgement reinforces behavior. Reflection refines it. Gratitude for progress prevents burnout. You recognize that the effort invested in micro habits is producing macro results. The act of scaling is itself proof that consistency works, that identity shifts are real, and that your small actions truly matter. Each layer of difficulty added, each habit stacked, each routine enhanced creates not just results, but a story you tell yourself about who you are and what you are capable of achieving. This narrative becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Scaling also teaches resilience and patience. Growth is incremental, not instantaneous. You will encounter plateaus. Some routines may feel stagnant. Progress may appear invisible. But when scaling is approached intelligently, with tracking and reflection, plateaus become opportunities. They indicate readiness for the next level. They test identity and reinforce discipline. You learn to persist not for immediate reward, but for long-term transformation. The person who scales successfully understands that compounding effort, patience, and deliberate escalation create results far beyond what effort alone could achieve. Now you begin to see the bigger picture. Tiny actions, when stacked and refined, evolve into routines. Routines, when scaled intelligently, evolve into identity. Identity, reinforced daily, becomes unstoppable. You are no longer the person who struggles to start, hesitates under stress, or negotiates with motivation. You are the person who shows up, scales, and compounds effort into lasting achievement. Scaling habits is proof that the consistent self you have been building is capable of transformation on every level. Your progress is no longer linear, it is exponential. Your momentum is now a force that carries everything forward. Finally, recognize that scaling habits is preparation for permanence. The daily victories, the layered routines, the incremental improvements, all of it forms a system that will sustain you for a lifetime. You have moved from beginner discipline to mastery discipline. You have evolved identity, stacked habits, increased difficulty, and celebrated progress strategically. The work you have done, the discipline you have developed, and the systems you have built have transformed not just what you do, but who you are. You are ready to cement all of it into a single identity, the consistent, unstoppable self that Chapter 9 will reveal. The transition is clear. Small steps multiplied become big wins. Daily habits layered, refined, and scaled compound into measurable, transformative growth. Identity evolves, momentum builds, and discipline becomes natural. Now it is time to integrate everything you have learned into the final chapter, where all your practices, systems, and identity shifts converge. Your consistent self, the one who shows up, scales, and achieves, is waiting to be fully realized. The journey is almost complete, and the culmination is nothing short of transformational. Chapter 9: The Consistent Self, Identity, Pride, and Lifelong Discipline. The person you were yesterday is not the person you are becoming. The old self, scattered, reactive, and inconsistent, struggled under the weight of distraction, doubt, and emotional storms. That self negotiated with motivation, surrendered to moods, and allowed daily chaos to dictate outcomes. You remember those days, the frustration of broken promises to yourself, the guilt of missed opportunities, the quiet ache of unrealized potential. That self lived in cycles of hope and failure, waiting for the perfect moment to take action, only to discover that perfect moments never arrive. It was not a lack of ability, intelligence, or desire that held you back. It was inconsistency. Contrast that with the self you are building now. This new self shows up day after day, no matter the circumstances. It acts when motivation fades. It persists when energy is low. It scales habits, stacks wins, and refines systems intelligently. It has learned to conquer distraction, to withstand emotional storms, to track, reflect, and evolve. This self is reliable. It is intentional. It is unshakable. You now live in alignment with your highest identity, and that alignment radiates into every aspect of life. Where the old self faltered, the self performs. Where the old self questioned, the self decides. Where the old self hesitated, this self acts. Daily discipline is not just about doing tasks. It is about becoming the person who is capable of anything. Every habit you maintain, every streak you protect, every micro commitment you honor, reinforces a deeper truth. You are someone who follows through. Your mind grows sharper because it is trained to focus. Your body grows stronger because it is consistently cared for. Your career grows because you show up reliably, delivering when others retreat. Your relationships grow because you are present, dependable, and emotionally anchored. Daily action compounds across every layer of existence. Discipline is not punishment, it is power, and power reshapes everything it touches. Pride and self-respect emerge naturally from this consistency. You no longer wait for validation from external sources. You measure success by your commitment, by the actions you take when no one is watching. There is a quiet, unshakable satisfaction in knowing that you are not defined by mood, circumstance, or temptation. You are defined by action, by integrity, by the daily victories that no one else may notice, but that matter infinitely to the person you are becoming. Pride is no longer fragile. It is rooted in reality. Self-respect is no longer conditional. It is earned every single day. Identity is the secret behind all achievement. When consistency becomes habitual, it ceases to require effort. It becomes who you are. You no longer try to act. You act because it is natural. You no longer negotiate with your habits. They are an extension of your identity. The discipline you have built is now inseparable from your sense of self. The new you is predictable in its excellence, unstoppable in its consistency, and immune to excuses. Life no longer sweeps you off course. You navigate with purpose, authority, and foresight. Identity-driven discipline is the ultimate leverage. It transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary outcomes. This transformation is cinematic in its magnitude. Look at the contrast clearly. The old self stumbled through inconsistent days, leaving effort fragmented and results minimal. The new self moves deliberately, each day building upon the last, each habit layered and scaled, each win compounding toward mastery. What once felt impossible, the reliability of action, the quiet confidence, the ability to withstand life's storms, now feels natural. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the orchestrator of your life, the one who shapes outcomes with intentionality and focus. This is the power of consistent identity. Consistency also breeds freedom. You are no longer enslaved by emotion, distracted by novelty, or dependent on fleeting motivation. Systems carry you, habits guide you, and identity anchors you. Life becomes predictable not because challenges vanish, but because your ability to act reliably renders challenges manageable. You operate from a place of inner authority. You do not react. You create. You are no longer waiting for conditions to be right. You have become the condition for success. Every action, every habit, every streak reinforces the reality that the consistent self cannot be derailed. Victory is the natural byproduct of this discipline. Not flashy victory, not recognition-dependent victory, but the quiet, powerful, undeniable victory of being who you said you would be every single day. Every morning you rise, every task you complete, every habit you scale, you prove that consistency is stronger than chaos, that identity is stronger than doubt, and that daily action is stronger than fleeting feelings. You own your growth. You own your life. You have transformed small, repeated actions into a system that creates mastery, pride, and fulfillment. And now the promise becomes reality. You have seen how small habits, stacked and scaled, tracked and refined, show up even on the hard days, build momentum, and transform identity. You are no longer negotiating with yourself or waiting for motivation. You are consistent. You are disciplined. You are the person you have been striving to become. This is the culmination of every chapter, every lesson, every insight. Identity, pride, and lifelong discipline are no longer abstract. They are lived, visible, and unstoppable. The journey does not end here, because mastery is lived daily. But the foundation is complete. Your habits, your systems, your identity, and your discipline now form a self-sustaining loop of growth and action. You are no longer fragmented, scattered, or reactive. You are rooted, reliable, and unshakable. You now understand the power of small, repeated actions, the force of momentum, and the influence of consistent identity. The life you live today is proof that daily discipline shapes every corner of existence: mind, body, career, and relationships. You now understand the power. Now it's time to live it. Every day, every action, every choice reinforces the person you are becoming. You are no longer the old self negotiating with circumstance. You are the consistent self, forging a life of mastery, pride, and unstoppable achievement. The final chapter will guide you in cementing this identity fully, ensuring that every lesson, every habit, and every action integrates seamlessly into a life defined by unwavering consistency and lifelong growth. Closing: do it small, do it daily, do it until it changes you. Greatness is not handed out. It is not a prize waiting for the worthy. It is built, brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. The life you desire, the person you want to become, is constructed in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when energy is low, and when the choice is simple: act or surrender. The truth you have discovered in this journey is simple yet profound. Small, repeated actions create unstoppable transformation. Motivation is fleeting, emotion is unreliable, and circumstance is unpredictable. But consistency is eternal. What you do today, every single day, compounds into the person you will become tomorrow. Remember the small steps, the micro actions that felt almost insignificant at first. They were not insignificant. Every push-up, every sentence written, every 5 minutes of focus, every tiny win stacked upon the last built the foundation of mastery. You have seen how the 1% improvements, when repeated daily, create exponential growth. This is the secret of high performers, the architects of their own destiny. The world celebrates results, but it is daily repetition, unseen and unglamorous, that produces the results we're celebrating. What you have learned is that the simple act of showing up consistently matters more than intensity, more than perfection, more than rare bursts of inspiration. Daily effort is the engine of transformation. You have learned how to withstand distraction, to tame emotional storms, to track, reflect, refine, and scale your habits. You have seen how identity emerges from repetition, how momentum builds when effort is measured, and how mastery is a product of persistence, not luck. Each chapter of this journey has led to a single truth: you are what you do consistently. Every small action, executed with discipline, strengthens identity. Every streak, tracked and refined, reinforces confidence. Every scaled habit transforms possibility into reality. This is not theory. This is lived experience, proof in action, evidence you create yourself every day. Contrast the old self with the new. The old self hesitated. It waited for motivation. It negotiated with circumstance and surrendered to emotion. It doubted. It delayed. The new self acts. It shows up. It scales. It tracks. It reflects. It refines. It does not wait for perfect conditions because it has become the condition. It embodies consistency. It is reliable, disciplined, and unstoppable. This is the power of identity-driven habits. Once you become the person who acts daily, all else follows. Confidence, strength, achievement, and pride are byproducts of your unwavering presence in the arena of action. Consistency is not glamorous. It is often invisible. It does not come with applause, praise, or immediate reward, but it is unbeatable. It outlasts emotion, motivation, and circumstance. It is the quiet force that shapes careers, relationships, bodies, and minds. It is the secret advantage of every high performer, every self-made individual, every person who has achieved transformation that lasts. You have learned that small steps, repeated daily, create unstoppable progress. The journey is not about the dramatic leap. It is about the disciplined march. The journey is not about intensity. It is about persistence. Anchor this truth in your life. Do it small. Do it daily. Do it until it changes you. Each day is an opportunity to reinforce identity, to strengthen momentum, to compound growth. Each habit you maintain is evidence of capability. Each streak is proof that consistency wins. Each small victory accumulates into mastery, and the more you practice, the less fragile your discipline becomes. The more you show up, the more unstoppable you are. The more consistent your action, the more your identity aligns with the person you intend to be. Start today, start small, start now. Do not wait for perfect motivation, for ideal circumstances, or for tomorrow. The power is in the present, in the act of showing up, in the repetition that turns effort into identity. Take the tiny steps that will compound into exponential results. Protect your habits, scale them intelligently, and track progress relentlessly. Every action matters. Every day matters. Every choice defines you. The consistent, disciplined self you have built is now ready to live fully, act decisively, and create results that will last a lifetime. Tomorrow belongs to the consistent, not the motivated, not the lucky, not the talented, the consistent, the person who shows up when it is hard, when it is uncomfortable, when no one is watching, the person who does small daily actions with relentless commitment, the person who compounds effort into identity and identity into life transformation. This is your power. This is your path. Do it small. Do it daily. Do it until it changes you. Your life, your mastery, your future. Start building it now.